The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the riverside manor, creating rivers of water that blurred the manicured gardens beyond. Inside, the silence was deafening, the kind of silence that money could buy but couldn't fill. 34-year-old James Harrington stood in his study, staring at the medical report on his desk. The words seemed to mock him: chronic stress-induced cardiac episodes, lifestyle intervention urgently recommended, mortality risk significantly elevated without immediate changes. He crumpled the paper and threw it across the room. James had built Harrington Technologies from nothing, a garage startup that became a global empire worth billions. He'd revolutionized cloud computing, employed thousands, and graced the covers of business magazines. But standing here now, in this palatial estate with its 40 empty rooms, he felt hollow. His phone buzzed. Another board meeting, another crisis, another reason to keep running on the treadmill that was slowly killing him. He ignored it. A gentle knock interrupted his thoughts. "Mr. Harrington." It was Margaret Chen, his estate manager of 15 years. "The new cleaning service is here. I wanted to introduce you if you have a moment." James waved dismissively. "I don't need to meet the cleaning staff, Margaret." "I thought you might want to, sir. You did implement that new protocol, getting to know everyone who works here." He'd forgotten about that. 3 months ago, after his diagnosis, his therapist had suggested he start connecting with people, real people, not just shareholders and attorneys. "Fine," he said curtly, "send them in." What entered his study was not what he expected. A young woman, perhaps 30, stood in the doorway with quiet dignity. She had warm brown eyes, shoulder-length black hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and wore the simple uniform of the cleaning service. But it was her expression that caught him. No nervousness, no attempt to impress, just calm professionalism. "Mr. Harrington, I'm Maya Okonkwo," she said, extending her hand. Her accent carried hints of her Nigerian heritage. "I'll be managing the housekeeping for your estate. Before you continue watching, I want to take just a moment to say thank you for being here. If this story is touching your heart, please consider hitting that like button. It really helps us share these meaningful moments with others who need them. And if you'd like more stories that celebrate kindness and the quiet miracles of everyday life, subscribe to our channel. We read every comment, and we'd love to hear what brought you here today. Now, let's continue with Maya and James's story. James shook her hand, nodding the firm grip. "Ms. Okonkwo, Margaret speaks highly of your credentials." "I appreciate the opportunity, sir." There was a movement behind her, and James noticed a small figure partially hidden by Maya's skirt. A little girl, maybe 4 years old, with the same warm brown eyes and a cascade of natural curls adorned with a yellow ribbon. The child peeked out at him shyly. "I apologize, Mr. Harrington," Maya said quickly, her composure faltering for the first time. "The childcare center had an emergency closure today. My neighbor who usually helps had a family situation. I know this is unprofessional, but I promise it won't happen again. Amara will stay quiet and out of the way." James looked at the little girl. She wore a sunflower yellow dress, carefully pressed but clearly handmade, and clutched a worn stuffed elephant to her chest. He should send them away. This was his sanctuary, his space where everything was controlled and predictable. But something made him pause. Maybe it was the medical report still lying crumpled in the corner. Maybe it was the memory of his therapist's words. "When was the last time you did something unexpected, James? When was the last time you let life surprise you?" "It's fine," he heard himself say, "just this once." Maya's relief was visible. "Thank you, sir. You won't even know we're here." But he did know they were there. For the next 2 hours, as James tried to focus on emails and quarterly reports, he found himself distracted by small sounds drifting through the manor. The quiet swish of cleaning, Maya's soft voice occasionally speaking to her daughter, and sometimes a child's giggle, quickly hushed but impossibly bright. Finally, curiosity got the better of him. He found them in the grand library, a room he rarely used despite its thousands of leather-bound books. Maya was dusting the higher shelves with practiced efficiency, while Amara sat cross-legged on the Persian rug, carefully arranging her stuffed elephant and what appeared to be a small collection of pebbles she'd brought from home. "Mr. Elephant is having tea with Princess Pebble," Amara was whispering to herself, completely absorbed in her imaginary world. James cleared his throat. Maya turned quickly, stepping down from the ladder. "Mr. Harrington, I'm sorry, is she being too loud? I can." "No," he said, surprising himself again. I've never seen anyone use this room." Amara looked up at him with those enormous brown eyes. For a long moment, she just stared, and James felt oddly evaluated. Then she stood up, walked directly to him with the fearless confidence only small children possess, and held up her stuffed elephant. "This is Mr. Elephant," she announced seriously. "He's very brave. Are you brave?" James found himself kneeling down to her level, something he couldn't remember ever doing with a child. "I used to think I was," he said honestly. "Now I'm not so sure." Amara considered this with the gravity of a philosopher. Then she did something that would change everything. She stepped forward and wrapped her small arms around his neck in a hug, unprompted, unconditional, and utterly pure. James froze. He couldn't remember the last time someone had hugged him. Years, certainly. His world was handshakes and professional distance. Even his ex-fiancée, Vanessa, had been more about image than affection. This child, who barely knew him, was offering something he hadn't realized he was starving for: simple human warmth. When Amara pulled back, she patted his shoulder consolingly. "It's okay to be not sure brave," she said. "Mama says being scared is okay. Being kind is what matters." James looked up at Maya, who stood frozen by the bookshelf, her eyes wide with mortification. "I am so sorry, Mr. Harrington," she began, but he raised his hand. "Don't be," he said quietly, his voice rougher than usual. He stood slowly. "Your daughter is remarkable." Maya's expression softened slightly. "She has her moments." "How old are you, Amara?" James asked. 4 3/4, she said importantly. "Almost 5. And what do you want to be when you grow up?" Amara didn't hesitate. "A doctor, so I can fix people who are sick and make them not sad anymore." Something twisted in James's chest. "That's a wonderful dream." "What's your dream?" Amara asked with the directness only children possess. James opened his mouth, then closed it. He genuinely didn't know how to answer. What was his dream? He'd achieved everything he'd set out to do professionally. And now? "I'm still figuring that out," he admitted. Amara nodded sagely. "That's okay. Mama says grown-ups are allowed to not know things too." That evening, James did something he'd never done before. He asked Margaret to arrange for Maya and Amara to join him for dinner. Margaret's eyebrows rose slightly. "Sir." "I'd like company," he said simply. "Please make sure the kitchen prepares something a 4-year-old would enjoy." When Maya received the invitation, she was stunned and worried. "This is unusual," she told Margaret carefully. "I hope I haven't done anything to—" "You haven't," Margaret assured her with a knowing smile. "Mr. Harrington has been different today in a good way. Please accept. I think it would mean a lot to him." Dinner was served in the smaller dining room, not the cavernous formal space, but a cozy area with windows overlooking the garden. The rain had stopped, and the evening sun was breaking through clouds, painting everything gold. Amara sat on a stack of cushions, her eyes wide at the array of food. The chef had prepared chicken tenders shaped like dinosaurs at James's specific request, sweet potato fries, and a fruit rainbow. "This is like a feast for a princess," Amara breathed. "Or a very brave girl," James said, and was rewarded with a brilliant smile. Maya ate quietly, still clearly uncertain about this bizarre turn of events. But as dinner progressed and James asked genuine questions about Amara's favorite books, about Maya's work, about their lives, she began to relax. "May I ask something, Mr. Harrington?" Maya said finally. "James, please." She hesitated, then continued. "Why did you invite us to dinner?" James set down his fork. He could give her a polite deflection. Instead, he chose honesty. "Because your daughter hugged me today," he said quietly. "And I realized it's been years since anyone has shown me affection that wasn't transactional. She gave me something freely, kindness, warmth, and expected nothing in return. It made me realize how empty my life has become." Maya's eyes softened with understanding but also concern. "Mr. James, I hope you don't think I'm trying to." "I don't," he said quickly. "I know this is strange, but I'd like to ask you something, and please feel free to say no." He took a breath. "I'd like to offer you a position as my estate manager, full-time with a significant salary increase. You'd coordinate all household operations, work directly with me on making this place feel less like a museum. And," he glanced at Amara, who was building a fort with her chicken tenders, "Amara would be welcome here, always. There's a playroom that hasn't been used in decades, a library full of books, gardens to explore." Maya stared at him. I don't have estate management experience. I'm a cleaner, James, a single mother trying to make ends meet. I'm not qualified." "You raised a daughter who teaches grown men about bravery and kindness," James interrupted. "You manage multiple jobs while pursuing your nursing degree online. You see people, really see them. Margaret told me you remembered the security guard's birthday last week and brought him homemade bread. That's the kind of person I need in my life. Someone real." "This is too much," Maya whispered. "Mama," Amara tugged on her sleeve. "Can we stay? I like Mr. James, he needs us." Out of the mouths of babes. Maya looked at her daughter, then at James, then down at her hands. "Can I think about it?" she asked finally. "Of course," James said. "Take all the time you need." But Amara had already made up her mind. She slipped off her cushions, walked around the table, and climbed into James's lap as if she'd been doing it her whole life. "Don't worry," she told him, patting his cheek. "Mama will say yes. She always chooses adventures." James found himself smiling, really smiling for the first time in months. Maybe years. Maya said yes. 3 days later, she and Amara moved into the east wing of Riverside Manor, a suite of rooms that Maya insisted on cleaning herself first, despite James's protests. "If I'm going to live somewhere, I need to make it mine," she said firmly, and he understood. The first weeks were an adjustment for everyone. The household staff, 7 people who'd worked for James for years, didn't know what to make of the new arrangement. Was Maya their supervisor, their colleague, the bosses? What exactly? Maya handled it with grace. She met with each staff member individually, learned their stories, asked about their lives. She didn't come in trying to change everything. Instead, she observed, learned, and made small, thoughtful improvements. She noticed that the gardener, Thomas, had chronic back pain. She researched ergonomic tools and ordered them, along with a supportive work belt. Thomas cried when she gave them to him. She saw that the chef, Marie, rarely got to cook the vibrant French Caribbean dishes of her heritage, always preparing bland, appropriate meals. Maya asked her to teach her some recipes, and soon the manor was filled with the smells of spice and creativity. She realized that the security team worked 12-hour shifts with no real break room. She converted an unused storage space into a comfortable lounge with a coffee machine, comfortable chairs, and a small library. The staff went from skeptical to loyal within a month. And James watched it all with growing amazement. But the real transformation was in him. Amara had decided that James was her friend, and 4-year-olds are relentless about friendship. Every evening when he came home, and he found himself coming home earlier and earlier, she'd be waiting. "Mr. James, I saw a butterfly today." "Mr. James, Mama taught me a new word. Magnificent. You're magnificent." "Mr. James, will you read to me?" At first he was awkward. He didn't know how to talk to children. But Amara was patient with him in the way only children can be, accepting his stilted attempts at play with complete seriousness. Slowly, something inside him began to thaw. He found himself playing elaborate games of make-believe in the garden. He learned the names of Amara's entire stuffed animal family. There were 17 members, each with detailed backstories. He discovered that reading children's books with different voices made Amara laugh so hard she hiccuped. And Maya watched this stern, exhausted billionaire transform into someone lighter, younger, happier. One evening, about 6 weeks after they'd moved in, James found Maya in the library. She was curled up in one of the reading chairs, textbooks spread around her, studying for her nursing degree. "May I interrupt?" he asked. She looked up, pushing her glasses up her nose. "Of course, this is your house." "Our house," he corrected and meant it. He sat down across from her. "I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For what you've done to this place, to my life." He gestured around. "A month ago I came home to silence. Now I come home to laughter, to the smell of Marie's cooking, to Amara's artwork on the refrigerator. You've made this a home, Maya." She smiled softly. "Amara helped, she's the heart of it." "You both are." There was a moment of comfortable silence. "Can I ask you something personal?" Maya said. "Anything." "That day we met you seemed defeated, sad. What was happening?" James was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and showed her the medical report, the one that had started everything. Maya read it, her expression growing concerned. "James." "I'm managing it," he said quickly. "I've changed my schedule, reduced stress. My doctor is pleased with my progress. But that day when you and Amara walked in, I was contemplating what my life had become. All this success, all this wealth, and I was literally working myself to death. Alone. And now, he said honestly, I'm remembering what it feels like to be alive, to look forward to coming home, to have someone ask about my day and actually care about the answer." Maya's eyes were bright. "You've given us so much, James. A beautiful home, security, opportunity." "You've given me more," he interrupted. "You've given me purpose, connection, joy. Your daughter hugged me and reminded me that life isn't about balance sheets and board meetings. It's about moments like reading bedtime stories and watching butterflies and learning that being not sure brave is okay." He stood up, suddenly restless. "I'm falling for you, Maya. I don't know when it happened exactly. Maybe when I saw how you treated every person in this house with dignity. Maybe when I watched you stay up until 3 in the morning studying while working full-time and being an incredible mother. Maybe when you laughed at my terrible dinosaur impression and told me to try again until I got it right." Maya stood too, her heart racing. "James." "I know it's complicated," he said quickly. "I know there's a power imbalance. I know we come from different worlds, but I need you to know how I feel. You don't have to feel the same way. Nothing has to change, but I couldn't keep pretending." She kissed him. It was soft, sweet, and full of every word she couldn't say. When they pulled apart, she was smiling through tears. "I was so scared," she whispered. "I thought I was imagining it. I'm a maid who got lucky and you're you. I told myself it was impossible, that I was being foolish." "You're not a maid," James said fiercely. "You're an incredible woman who's building a career, raising an amazing daughter, and somehow still has the energy to make everyone around her feel valued and seen. Don't ever diminish yourself." "I'm falling for you too," Maya admitted. "I have been for weeks, but I was afraid that if I acknowledged it, I'd lose everything. This home, this security, this happiness." "You'll never lose me," James promised. "Whatever happens between us, you and Amara will always have a place here, Always, I need you to believe that. I do. They stood there in the library, holding each other. As moonlight streamed through the windows and somewhere upstairs, Amara slept peacefully, dreaming of butterflies and adventures. The next morning, Amara noticed immediately. Mama is smiley, she announced at breakfast, and Mr. James is smiley. Did something good happen? Maya and James exchanged glances. Something very good happened, James said. Amara, how would you feel if your mama and I spent more time together, like special time? Amara's eyes went wide, like in my storybooks, where the prince and the princess fall in love. Something like that, Maya said gently. Amara thought about this very seriously. Then she said, will you still read to me, Mr. James? Every single night. And can we still have adventures in the garden? Always. Okay then. She returned to her pancakes. That's good. I like it when everyone is happy. And just like that, it was settled. But of course, life is never that simple. 2 weeks later, James received an unexpected visitor. Vanessa Worthington, his ex-fiancée, appeared at the manor unannounced, all designer elegance and calculated charm. James met her in the formal sitting room, keeping his expression neutral. Vanessa, what are you doing here? Is that any way to greet an old friend? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I heard rumors, James, rumors that you've taken in a maid and her child, that you've lost your focus. The board is concerned. The board has no say in my personal life. But they do have a say in whether you remain CEO. Vanessa sat down uninvited. Darling, I know you went through something difficult with your health. I understand you're having some kind of crisis. But this, she gestured dismissively, playing house with the help, it's beneath you. Careful, Vanessa. I'm trying to help you, she said, her voice dripping with false concern. Come back to the world you belong in. We were good together, remember. We understood each other. These people, they'll never understand your life, your pressures. They'll only drag you down. Before James could respond, a small voice came from the doorway. You're wrong. Amara stood there, holding Mr. Elephant, her face set in an expression of pure determination. Amara, Maya appeared behind her, apologetic. I'm sorry, James, she slipped away from me. It's fine, James said quietly, his eyes never leaving Vanessa's face. Amara walked into the room with the fearless confidence she always had. She looked up at Vanessa with those wise brown eyes. Mr. James is happier now, Amara said simply. He smiles more, he laughs. He doesn't look sad and tired all the time. If you really cared about him, you'd be happy he's happy. Vanessa's perfectly made-up face registered shock, then anger. How dare you? Enough, James stood. Vanessa, it's time for you to leave. James, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. This child sees more clearly than you ever did. She's right. I'm happier than I've been in years. And if the board has a problem with that, they can find a new CEO. You'd throw away everything you've built for a maid and her child. I'd throw it away for my family, James corrected quietly. And yes, that's what they are, my family. Vanessa stood, her composure cracking. You'll regret this, when reality sets in, when you remember who you really are. I know exactly who I am, James said. I'm someone who was dying inside until a 4-year-old girl taught me that kindness matters more than success. I'm someone who fell in love with a woman who sees people, not assets. I'm someone who's finally living instead of just existing. He walked to the door and opened it. Goodbye, Vanessa. After she left, Maya pulled Amara into her arms. Baby, that was very brave, but you shouldn't have. She was being mean, Amara said stubbornly, and mean people need to know when they're wrong. James knelt down beside them. Thank you for defending me, Amara. That took real courage. You're my family, Amara said matter-of-factly. Family protects each other. James looked at Maya over Amara's head. and the love in his eyes was unmistakable. "Yes," he said softly, "they do." 3 months passed like a beautiful dream. James made good on his quiet threat to the board. He restructured his role, delegating more, working from home more often, prioritizing life over constant growth. Some board members resigned. Good, James thought. He replaced them with people who understood that sustainable success meant sustainable living. The company's stock actually went up. Turned out, an energized, healthy CEO made better decisions than an exhausted, isolated one. Maya finished her semester with top marks. James threw her a celebration dinner, and when she protested that it was too much, Amara had said, "Mama, let people celebrate you. You're magnificent." So she did. Amara started kindergarten at a progressive school that James had carefully researched. She came home every day full of stories and new facts. "Did you know butterflies taste with their feet, Mr. James?" Their feet. And James found himself genuinely fascinated by 5-year-old wisdom. The manor transformed. Rooms that had been cold showpieces became living spaces. The playroom echoed with laughter. The kitchen smelled like home. The garden hosted birthday parties and quiet morning coffees and Saturday afternoon picnics. And slowly, carefully, James began to believe he deserved this happiness. On a crisp autumn evening, James asked Maya to meet him in the garden. Their garden, as they'd come to call it, where they'd first admitted their feelings. Maya arrived to find the space transformed. Thousands of tiny lights were strung through the trees, creating a canopy of stars. A small table was set for two, with Amara's help evident in the slightly crooked centerpiece of wildflowers. "What's all this?" Maya asked, her heart already racing. James stood there, handsome in casual clothes, looking nervous in a way she'd never seen. "I need to talk to you about something," he said. Before she could respond, Amara appeared from behind a tree, wearing her best dress and holding a basket of rose petals. "I'm the flower girl," she announced proudly. Maya's hand went to her mouth. "James." He took her hands. "6 months ago I was dying, not just physically, though my health was failing, but spiritually, emotionally. I'd built an empire and lost my humanity in the process. I lived in this beautiful house and felt nothing but emptiness." His voice grew rough with emotion. "And then your daughter hugged me, just walked up to a stranger and gave him pure, unconditional love. And that small act of kindness cracked something open inside me, something I'd thought was permanently closed." Tears were already streaming down Maya's face. "You taught me that success without connection is just loneliness with better furniture," James continued. "You showed me what it means to build a life, not just a portfolio, to value people, not just productivity, to come home to love instead of silence." He dropped to one knee and Maya gasped. From his pocket he pulled out a small velvet box, but he didn't open it yet. "Amara," he called softly, "will you come here, sweetheart?" Amara skipped over, dropping rose petals with abandon. James looked at the little girl who had changed his life. "Amara, I need to ask you something very important first. Is it okay with you if I ask your mama to marry me? Because I don't just want to marry her. I want to be your family. If you'll have me, I'd like to officially be your father." Amara's eyes went huge. She looked at her mother, then at James, then back at her mother. "You mean like a real papa?" she whispered. "Like a real papa," James confirmed. "I already have the adoption papers drawn up. If your mama says yes, and if you say yes, then we can all be a family officially. What do you think?" Amara launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck. "Yes, yes, yes, yes. I always wanted a papa and you're the best one." James held her tight, his eyes closed, overwhelmed. Maya was openly sobbing now, happy tears streaming down her face. James set Amara down gently and turned back to Maya, still kneeling. He opened the box. The ring was beautiful but not ostentatious. A simple band with a single, perfect diamond that caught the light like captured starlight. "Maya Okonkwo," he said, his voice shaking. "You walked into my life when I needed you most. You didn't try to fix me or change me. You just loved me, challenged me, supported me, and showed me what authentic happiness looks like. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to make you as happy as you've made me?" "Yes," Maya breathed. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms and kissing her as Amara cheered, and threw the remaining rose petals into the air. When they broke apart, James pulled an envelope from his jacket. "I have something else," he said, handing it to Amara. "These are official papers that say you're my daughter, not just in our hearts but legally, if that's what you want." Amara couldn't read yet, but she clutched the papers to her chest like treasure. "Can I call you Papa now?" "You can call me anything you want, sweetheart." "Okay, Papa." She kissed his cheek, a loud, enthusiastic kiss that echoed through the garden. "Thank you for the hug I gave you that first day." "Thank you," James corrected gently. "Thank you for seeing something good in a sad, lost man. Thank you for teaching me that bravery isn't about never being scared. It's about choosing love anyway." That night, after Amara was asleep, exhausted from excitement, Maya and James sat in the garden under the lights. "I can't believe this is real," Maya whispered. 6 months ago, I was scrubbing floors and wondering how I'd pay rent. Now I'm engaged to you, living in this beautiful home, watching my daughter thrive." "6 months ago, I was counting down to my own death," James said quietly, "waiting for my heart to give out, alone in a house full of things that meant nothing. Now I'm surrounded by love, by purpose, by life." He turned to her. "You saved me, Maya, you and Amara." "You saved yourself," Maya corrected. "You chose to open your heart. You chose to let us in. That took more courage than building any company." They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined. "When should we get married?" James asked finally. "Small," Maya said immediately. "Just the people we love. Maybe here in this garden where everything began." "Perfect, next month." She laughed. "You don't waste time, do you?" "I wasted 34 years being afraid to truly live," James said seriously. "I'm not wasting another day." The wedding was held on a Sunday afternoon in November, exactly 1 month later. True to their wishes, it was intimate, just 20 guests in the garden. The household staff who'd become family, Maya's best friend from nursing school, a handful of James's employees who he'd actually connected with as people. And Amara, of course, in a dress that sparkled like the stars. But the most important guest was James's doctor, Dr. Patterson, who'd been with him through his health crisis. As James and Maya exchanged vows, Dr. Patterson smiled, thinking about how 6 months ago he'd advised lifestyle changes and wondering if his patient would survive. Now here was James, eyes bright, color healthy, radiating joy, promising to love and cherish the woman and child who'd saved his life by teaching him how to live it. "I promise to choose us over work," James said, his vows simple but heartfelt. "To come home to laughter instead of silence. To remember that success is measured in moments, not money. And to be the man you both see when you look at me, someone worthy of your extraordinary love." Maya's vows were equally simple. "I promise to keep challenging you to be your best self. To build a life that matters, not just looks impressive. To remind you always that you are enough exactly as you are, and to love you not despite our different worlds, but because you've taught me that love builds bridges between all worlds." And Amara, as flower girl, had insisted on saying something too. "I promise to keep hugging you and teaching you about butterflies and reminding you to be brave even when you're scared. Because you're my papa now, and papas need their daughters to take care of them too." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. 6 months later, the Harrington Okonkwo family, Maya had insisted on hyphenating, gathered in the living room for a quiet evening. Amara, now nearly 6, was teaching James a complicated hand-clapping game. Maya was curled up in her favorite chair, studying but occasionally glancing up to smile at her family. The doorbell rang, an unusual occurrence. Margaret appeared with an uncertain expression. "Sir, there's a delivery. It's unusual." She handed James an envelope. Inside was a letter from the city's largest children's hospital. "Dear Mr. Harrington, we understand you recently underwent a significant personal transformation. We also understand that you've developed a passion for helping children and families in need. We'd like to invite you to tour our facility and discuss potential partnership opportunities." James looked up at Maya, who'd come to stand beside him. "They want to talk about funding programs for sick children and supporting single parents," he said, wonder in his voice. "What do you think?" Maya asked softly. James looked at Amara, who'd abandoned her game and was listening intently despite not understanding all the words. "I think," he said slowly, "that a little girl once told me she wanted to be a doctor to help people who are sick and sad. And I think that her papa should help make that dream possible for her and for other children who need hope." "Can we help the sick kids, Papa?" Amara asked. "Yes, sweetheart, we can." And just like that, a new chapter began. 5 years later, the Harrington Children's Wellness Center opened, a state-of-the-art facility that provided not just medical care, but support for entire families. It offered childcare for parents during appointments, financial counseling, job training, and mental health services. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, reporters asked James about his inspiration. He smiled and gestured to his family, Maya, now a registered nurse working part-time at the center, and Amara, age 10, already volunteering to read to younger children in the waiting room. "5 years ago," James said, "I was dying, not from illness but from loneliness disguised as success. Then a 4-year-old girl taught me that the bravest thing you can do is offer love to a stranger. This center exists because one hug changed my life, and I want to make sure other families have the support they need to keep giving those hugs, to keep choosing love, even when life is hard." He pulled Maya and Amara close. "My wife taught me that success without compassion is meaningless. My daughter taught me that every person deserves kindness, regardless of who they are or where they come from. And together, they taught me what I was really building my empire for, not to accumulate wealth, but to create change." That evening, back at the manor, which now regularly hosted fundraising events, children's programs, and community gatherings, the family sat in their garden. "Papa," Amara said thoughtfully, "do you remember the day we met?" "Every detail," James said. "You were wearing a yellow dress and holding Mr. Elephant. You walked right up to me and gave me a hug." "I was scared," Amara admitted. "You looked really serious and sad, but Mama always says, when you meet someone sad, you should give them kindness, so I did." "And you changed my life," James said quietly. "One hug from a little girl taught a grown man how to live." "Not just one hug," Maya corrected, smiling. "Every day since then, you've chosen to keep your heart open, to keep choosing love over fear. That's the real transformation, James. You did that." James pulled them both close, his heart full to bursting. In the distance, the lights of the children's center glowed against the darkening sky, a beacon of hope built on the foundation of one small act of kindness. And in this moment, surrounded by love in a garden full of light, James Harrington finally understood what success really meant. Not the money or the power or the recognition, but this: a child's laughter, a wife's smile, and a heart that had learned to love without fear. Everything else was just details. If this story touched your heart, we'd love to have you as part of our community. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that celebrate the quiet miracles of kindness, the power of second chances, and the truth that love can transform even the most broken places. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that happiness isn't about what we achieve, It's about who we become and who we love along the way. Remember, the bravest thing you can do today is offer kindness to someone who needs it. You never know whose life you might change. Thank you for being here. Until next time, keep choosing love.